Hello everybody, it's TannerFishies here, back again with a new Ninjago video here on the channel. In today's video we're going to be talking about the elemental power of wind and why it seems as though the Ninjago series itself is confused over what this power is in terms of its continuity and its relationship from one character to the next. Now the elemental power of wind when it was first introduced was fairly consistent, but nowadays it seems as though the Ninjago staff doesn't even know what to do with the element, and like I said, the continuity revolving around the wind element does not really make a whole lot of sense in the modern day Ninjago era, especially following the ending of Ninjago Seabound. So let's just run down a brief history of the wind element really quick, and then we will jump into the things that really don't make sense continuity wise, and we also have some official word from one of the creators of Ninjago. Of course, regarding this topic of the elemental power of wind. Now, wind, when it was introduced, was a very straightforward element, as I said. It belonged to the elemental master known as Moro, who just so happened to be a ghost, and he was the primary antagonist during Season 5 Possession. After Moro's destruction towards the end of the season, and after his quick resurrection during Day of the Departed, the element of wind was seemingly pushed out of the Ninjago story. It had served its purpose as being the power of a Ninjago villain, and the power itself, as stated by some Ninjago showrunners, has indeed sought out another host, and that's pretty much all we know right now. Wind also made an appearance during Season 9 Hunted as an element belonging to one of the dragons in the first realm, otherwise known as the realm of Onian dragons. And this is where the continuity starts to get a little bit mixed up, especially when you combine the existence of this dragon to what we learned from Ninjago Seabound. According to Ninjago Seabound, wind was not originally one of the elements that the first Spinjitzu master had when he crossed over into Ninjago. In fact, the wind element, alongside other elements such as water, was in fact not even able to be controlled by the first Spinjitzu master, and was one of the elements originally belonging to Wajira, the ancient storm spirit. Now the reason why this is confusing is because in the first realm there exists a wind dragon, or at least wind dragons as in plural, and the first Spinjitzu master's bloodline does indeed confirm that he is part dragon, suggesting that all of the elemental powers that he had obtained prior to coming to Ninjago did in fact come from each of these dragons. He essentially held an elemental power belonging to each of the dragons. There is a dragon for each element, there is an element for each dragon. And because wind was one of the dragons that was found within the first realm, one could assume that the first Spinjitzu master logically should have obtained the power of wind. But no, Ninjago Seabound actually suggests the opposite, that wind was not even remotely part of the first Spinjitzu master's elemental powers when he came to Ninjago. And wind in fact was taken from Wajira and passed along as normally alongside some other elemental powers that the first Spinjitzu master was born with. That was kind of a mouthful to break down, but I hope you guys can see where the confusion stands here. In one aspect of Ninjago's history, wind has been stated to be an original element, hence why there is a dragon for that original power in the original realm. But in Seabound, we learn that wind is in fact a byproduct of Wajira and was one of her elements, not the first Spinjitzu masters. Ninjago creators, especially Tommy Andreasen himself, have been on record stating that they wish that this aspect of Ninjago's story could be removed entirely. Tommy Andreasen has said that he wishes he could change this aspect of the story, and I get why, because it makes no sense when you break it down logically. Because of the existence of a wind dragon in the first realm, one would expect the first Spinjitzu master to have the power of wind, or at least be born with that power, much like he was with every other elemental power that exists. But no, the wind element came from Wajira. And I could totally see how the creators would want to change something like this so it makes more sense for the modern day. Which aspect of this was the mistake though? Was the mistake the existence of the wind dragon, or was the mistake revealing that Wajira had the power of wind? Admittedly, wind did not have that big of a role during Ninjago Seabound. It was only briefly mentioned as being an element not at all connected to that of the first Spinjitzu master. Which continuity does Ninjago expect us to roll with? The continuity that was established during Ninjago Hunted, or the one that was established during Ninjago Seabound? In my opinion, they would like us to follow the lore and the story established during Ninjago Seabound, as that season is very much going to set the standard from here on out. The biggest criticism of Ninjago Seabound that I can supply is that they dropped a hint towards the wind element, but failed to elaborate on it. Maybe they're setting up for the future, but the next season doesn't sound like it's going to be focusing on the element of wind, especially when you take into account the recently revealed set listings. Nothing here suggests that the power of wind will be a story thread next season, so why why even reference it at all during Ninjago Seabound? In a lot of ways, it almost seems like the name dropping of the wind power from Seabound was the mistake, but like I said, the Ninjago creators have suggested that the existence of the wind dragon is something that they would retroactively go back and change, suggesting the existence of the wind dragon was the mistake instead of the wind name drop that we heard during Ninjago Seabound. The future of wind is something that is completely up in the air right now. Anything could happen in Ninjago's future regarding this specific element, because it seems as though the Ninjago series itself doesn't even know what they want the wind element to be. In terms of what I personally would like to see regarding the wind element in Ninjago, I believe you could suggest that the dragon was a big mistake. Disregard that entirely. Disregard the existence of the wind dragon and retcon that moving forward. Maybe that dragon belonged to a different element the entire time. There's a way to explain that, I'm sure. I mean, Ninjago has gotten away with a lot worse in terms of mistakes and continuity errors. And in fact, funny enough, one of their biggest continuity errors, that of course being Jay using wind during Season 1 Episode 10, was in fact retroactively discarded, and I believe the wind dragon could suffer a similar fate. It seems like wind is just causing a lot of problems for Ninjago, I must say. But going back to my main topic, the future of wind, what I would like to see. I would love there to be a season centered around the history of all of the elemental powers, especially those belonging to Wajira and not the first Spinjitzu master. Elements like wind, water, wave, storm. You could do so much with those elements, and while Seabound tackled a few of those, I feel like that lore and that story could be established even further and drawn out into something completely understandable, and in a way this could retroactively eliminate some of the continuity errors of previous seasons. More specifically, the existence of the wind dragon. Essentially do what Seabound tried to do in that regard, but maybe give us a little bit more of an explanation. Give us a little more detail, perhaps. Ideally, that's what I would like to see for a wind-focused season. Maybe you could have the entire season be a prequel season, completely set in the distant past with the first Spinjitzu master as the main character. That could be cool, seeing a young first Spinjitzu master doing his thing, coming to Ninjago, fighting Wajira, and claiming the water and wind elements for himself. Or maybe you could have it star a young Wu and Garmadon. Maybe it could be just like Spinjitzu Brothers, only drawn out a little more, and of course animated. As I mentioned earlier in the video, we also know that there might be a new Master of Wind introduced eventually sometime down the line. Who exactly this character will be and what his or her story will be, we have no idea just yet. We're not even sure if that's going to be a main plot point moving forward. However, various Ninjago creators, especially Tommy Andreasen, have hinted that the wind element has indeed found a new host. Elemental powers, if they weren't passed on genetically, do not die with the elemental master. They simply find a new host, meaning that somebody in Ninjago right now probably has the wind element with them. They just either don't know it yet, haven't unlocked it yet, or the Ninjago show just doesn't want to reveal who that is just yet. Either way, if Ninjago eventually does make a season centered around a brand new Master of Wind, that would be a prime opportunity to reveal the true nature of Wind's power and also explain what exactly this power is and where it came from. What the future of Ninjago might look like is obviously up in the air, especially regarding the elemental power of wind. Nobody really knows what's going on, and in a way I hesitate to say that Ninjago knows what they want to do with wind. Even if the power of wind is never mentioned again throughout the entire rest of the series, it'll still be one of the biggest continuity errors throughout all of Ninjago. And we have seen a lot of continuity mistakes, so that's really saying something. So for my final thoughts, I mean, I would like to see more of the elemental power of wind. I would like to actually get an explanation as to what exactly is going on with that power and where it came from, but that's just me. Let me know down below in the comments what you think about this topic. Do you think the power of wind is important enough to dedicate an entire season to, and which continuity do you think is going to be the one that Ninjago rolls with? The idea that wind came from the dragon, or that wind came from Wajira? Leave all your thoughts down below in the comments, you guys, and hopefully you enjoyed today's video. If you did, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, do all that fun stuff, and check out the links down below in the description from other forms of social media. As always, big shout out goes out to my Patreon supporters, including once again the marvelous Jan. Thank you guys so much for checking out this video once again. My name is TannerFishies, and with that I bid you farewell.